Do you remember that one popular girl in high school who wasn't just pretty, but also smart, kind, and well-liked by everyone? Have you ever wondered what she's doing now or what kind of person she grew up to be? Being popular, kind, and loved by everyone, you might think such people would have an easy life. But what if that popular high school girl never got to experience life beyond the age of 17? Today, we'll look at a tragic case from Japan that remained unsolved for almost 14 years and was finally resolved because of another incident. This is the case of Satomi Kitaguchi's murder. On October 5th, 2004, a girl, let's call her A because her name is unknown, was at home with her grandmother, Michio. She had skipped school because she felt unwell and decided to rest at her grandmother's house. Around 1 p.m., A's sister, Satomi Kitaguchi, arrived. A saw her sister go to the kitchen before heading to another part of the house, possibly to her own room in a separate building next to their grandmother's house. Around 3 p.m., A heard a shrieking noise, followed by the sound of fast, almost running footsteps. The noise was accompanied by what sounded like a girl screaming. The younger sister listened carefully and heard a noise like something rolling down the stairs. Finding it strange, she opened the back door slightly and looked toward the entrance of the detached house. As she did, she heard loud screams and banging sounds coming from inside the entrance door. She alerted her grandmother, and they both went to investigate. They rushed to the other side of their house complex and opened Satomi's bedroom door. What they saw was a scene no family member should ever have to witness. Blood was pooling around Satomi's lying body, and to their astonishment, standing over Satomi's body was a vicious stranger holding what appeared to be a murder weapon, a knife. A was stunned, and she was so scared she couldn't move. She heard her grandmother scream as she was stabbed by the intruder, who then fled the scene. A managed to escape and hide in a nearby gardening center, where she sought help. After receiving the call from the sister, the police arrived and began examining the scene. Fortunately, the grandmother was saved in time, despite her injuries from fighting the perpetrator. However, Satomi, who had sustained more than 10 stab wounds, had already lost her vital signs. Satomi Kitaguchi was killed in her own home. The life of this loving, kind, and bright high school girl was unjustly taken at the age of 17, right in front of her little sister and grandmother. Inside the crime scene, everything was clean, with no signs of burglary or damage to Satomi's belongings, indicating this was not a robbery. Upon closer inspection, the police found a shoe print that seemed to match Dunlop sneakers, likely sized 26 to 27 centimeters. The shoe print suggested the perpetrator had followed Satomi from her bedroom to the entryway of the house. Also, the police discovered a fingerprint on the bedroom door handle, suspected to belong to the murderer. They also found dandruff under Satomi's nails, from which they extracted male DNA. The music player in Satomi's room was still on, indicating she had been in a panic and rushed. From these findings, the police concluded it was a stalker case. The perpetrator appeared to know the layout of her house and went straight to her room, possibly someone from her family, neighborhood, or school with an unhealthy obsession. An immediate investigation was launched. Every part of the house was examined, and every neighbor and passerby was questioned about seeing any suspicious individuals in the area. They even set up a roadblock to gather as much information as possible, a rare move in Japan. Despite their efforts, no new information emerged because the tragedy happened on a weekday when everyone was busy. The sister and grandmother were also questioned after receiving medical treatment for their wounds and trauma. But unfortunately, the grandmother suffered from dissociative amnesia, blocking some of her memories because of severe trauma. The sister despite her young age and the horrific scene she witnessed, provided a useful clue. She described the perpetrator as a young man, around 20 years old, approximately 165 centimeters tall, with a big or stocky build. He had short, spiky hair that looked dyed brown, a round face, slender eyes, and some pimples. With this description and the DNA evidence, it seemed like it would be easy to track down the perpetrator. However, the investigation hit a dead end because the police found nothing in their database. In 2004, not all information, including DNA and fingerprints, was recorded. The Kitaguchi family never lost hope. They printed hundreds, even thousands of flyers and pictures with the perpetrator's sketch and information. They handed the sketch to anyone they saw on the road. Satomi's friends also helped by praying and distributing the same flyers after school. It was reported that the police received more than 400 calls from people. All these calls shared information about their relationship with Satomi, details about her school, close friends, cram school, but none led the investigation any further. As of November 4th, 2004, the police were still investigating 110 people and had received around 312 pieces of information about the public portrait, but they had not been able to obtain any convincing leads. Satomi Kitaguchi, the first daughter of the Kitaguchi family, was born and raised in Hatsukaichi, Hiroshima, Japan. Her name Satomi was crafted with kanji letters, derived from satoi, meaning clever or smart, and mi, meaning beauty. The name was chosen with the hope that she would grow up to be a bright and beautiful child. She was a blessing to her family, a daughter they had longed for years. Her father even said he was afraid he might hurt her whenever he held her in his arms. At the age of 17, when most teenagers might distance themselves from their families, Satomi remained a kind-hearted young lady who wanted nothing but her family's happiness. She was loved by everyone, neighbors, friends, and family. Her appearance reflected her kind-hearted nature. She looked elegant and cute at the same time. Satomi had a very bright personality. She was a good listener, always ready to lend an ear and smile. She was rarely seen without her smile, and people described her as caring and active in class and club activities. She was studying very hard to enter a science university to achieve her dream of becoming an architect. Months after the incident, on Monday, April 4th, 2005, one day before the 6-month mark, the police had received information about 620 cases, but had yet to arrest the suspect. The Kitaguchi family house remained shut, with sheets covering most of the crime scene. It was said that the police had deployed a total of 7,400 investigators and had restlessly questioned people in the area, but still nothing was found. On October 5th, 2005, marking 1 year after the incident, the police set up a checkpoint near the house, hoping someone would come forward with crucial information. On Wednesday, March 1st, 2006, the school Satomi attended held a graduation ceremony. Despite the tragedy, the school awarded Satomi her diploma. She finally graduated alongside her friends. Later, Tadashi Kitaguchi, Satomi's father, wrote a letter on his blog titled Memories of My Daughter, where he detailed the case, the ongoing investigation, the family's activities, and memories of his daughter. He wrote, "Today, thanks to all of my daughter's classmates, my daughter Satomi will be attending the graduation ceremony with me. Thank you very much." 2 years after the incident, a Japanese TV show invited 2 FBI investigators to help with the case. They created a composite version of the suspect, but even with the new composite picture, they still couldn't find the murderer, and the case remained deadlocked. The police also asked relatives and neighbors if they recognized the man in the picture, but no one had ever seen him. They were sure Satomi never had any bad encounters or problems with anyone, especially older people, given her good nature. In March 2008, the pictures were spread widely. The Kitaguchi family offered 3 million yen for anyone who knew or saw the man. Despite all the questioning, information gathered, and posters spread around the area, there was still no progress. The murderer seemed to have vanished without a trace. The case was then labeled as the Unsolved Case of Hiroshima and covered in many TV shows and articles. People began to do their own research and speculate on who the suspect might be. Despite all the clues, the perpetrator was nowhere to be found, making the case seem almost impossible to solve. However, there is no such thing as a perfect crime. In 2018, 14 years after the incident, the case finally came to light because of another crime. On April 13, 2018, a call came to the police department of Ube in the prefecture of Yamaguchi. It was reported that a man had gone on a rampage and kicked a coworker in the back of the thigh. This abuse involved a senior and junior worker. The senior worker was Manabu Kashima, 35 years old, described as a grumpy man who liked to vent his anger by kicking other workers, especially his juniors. The juniors had to endure their suffering until they could no longer handle it and call the police. Manabu Kashima was caught by the police and had to apologize to his junior and sort things out at the police station. Even after apologizing, the police still needed to document Manabu's data as part of Japanese law. The abuse case ended there. But on the day the police questioned him about the abuse case, Manabu appeared restless. His eyes were erratic. When they tried to collect his fingerprints, his hands were shaking and sweaty. The police noticed this and began to wonder what was causing his nervousness. However, they brushed it off and continued their procedure. After collecting the data, they ran Manabu's fingerprints through the database, and the result was shocking. They discovered that the 35-year-old man's fingerprints perfectly matched those of the suspect in an old unsolved case. The fingerprints matched the one found on Satomi's door handle, and the case finally came to light. Upon finding the matching fingerprints, the local investigator immediately took Manabu's DNA and compared it to the DNA found under Satomi's fingernails. The results confirmed the suspicion. Manabu was the perpetrator who killed Satomi Kitaguchi. After 13 years and 6 months, the case was finally nearing its conclusion. The questioning began, and the police asked Manabu numerous questions about his motives, the timeline of the events, and other details. Initially, Manabu denied the allegations, insisting he was innocent. However, the police continued to press him, and after hours of intense questioning, he finally confessed. Manabu admitted that the horrendous act was a spontaneous one. The local police dispatched teams to search Manabu's house and conducted interviews with his family, friends, and coworkers. On May 24, 2018, he was charged with the murder of Satomi Kitaguchi and the attempted murder of Michio. The news broke that a 14-year-old case had finally been solved. However, many questions arose. What was their relationship? Did Satomi know Manabu personally? Why did it take the police almost 14 years to solve the case? Let's take a closer look at the man's life before the horrendous act. Manabu Kashima was born in Shimonoseki City, Yamaguchi Prefecture, approximately 140 kilometers from Hiroshima. He was not his father's biological child. His mother was pregnant by another man before marrying Manabu's father. Their relationship was strained, with the father dictating Manabu's school and club activities, which contributed to Manabu's bad temper. After graduating high school, Manabu applied for a job in Ube and was accepted. He moved there and lived alone in a dormitory for metal workers, where he worked hard and was never late, at least until the incident. On a sunny day, October 4, 2004, the then 21-year-old Manabu woke up to a loud sound from a nearby machine. He was late and probably expected to be scolded, so he procrastinated before deciding to flee. He thought of going to Tokyo on his motorcycle, dreaming of visiting Akihabara due to his love for anime and games. He packed his things, bought a compass, and a folding knife for self-protection. By dawn on October 5th, he was ready to leave and never look back. Despite his parents' attempts to persuade him to stay, Manabu threw away his cell phone and pledged never to return to Ube. Around noon on the same day, Manabu reached Hiroshima. On the road, he saw some high school girls and felt something stir inside him. Later in court, he confessed that his lack of sexual experience and addiction to erotic videos, which he watched almost daily in the dormitory, caused his desire to grow uncontrollably. He admitted that his sexual desire suddenly arose, something he claimed almost never happened. While having these disgusting thoughts, he wandered around looking for a young and pretty girl to take advantage of. At one point, he saw a girl waiting at a traffic light, Satomi Kitaguchi. Satomi, wearing a normal, unrevealing high school uniform with a midi skirt and long-sleeved top, was just standing there, waiting for the traffic light. Yet, the sight triggered something vile in Manabu's mind. He began plotting what type of assault he would commit. In court, he confessed to having the thought, "I will assault her. I don't care if the police catch me later," and followed Satomi to what he believed was her home. He then stopped at a convenience store, bought a mask and a pair of gloves, and put the folding knife in his pocket, planning to use it to scare Satomi if she resisted. He parked his motorcycle in a nearby park and observed the area around the Kitaguchi house. After waiting for a while, he saw Satomi entering another building. Believing it to be her room, he sneaked inside. Despite buying the gloves and mask, he never wore them because he thought they might make him look suspicious and hinder his assault, explaining the fingerprints on the doorknob. He entered the residence around 3 p.m., took off his shoes, and climbed the stairs quietly. He saw a corridor with a room on the side, so he opened the sliding door and went inside. There he found Satomi lying face down on her bed with headphones on, listening to music. She looked at Manabu with a shocked expression as he stepped forward, holding his knife to scare her into staying still. Satomi was stunned. She only shook her head when asked if she was alone. Manabu moved closer, threatening her to take off her clothes. But Satomi, being smart, saw a chance to escape. She screamed and ran, hoping someone would hear her and come to her rescue. Satomi ran towards the stairs, explaining the running footsteps that A heard, and tried to reach the first floor. However, Manabu managed to catch up and stab Satomi in the stomach as she kept pushing and struggling. Despite her injuries, Satomi continued to resist and tried to get away. In a blind rage, Manabu stabbed her multiple times, including in her neck and chest. And while committing the vile act, Manabu kept blaming Satomi, asking, "Why are you running away?" Later, when asked about his feelings after killing Satomi, Manabu admitted he felt uneasy. Guilt and regret began to crawl into his unconsciousness. He couldn't sleep, eat, or think properly. However, despite his alleged regret, he spent his money in Tokyo quite easily. He traveled on his motorcycle, spending the money he had until it ran out. Eventually, he returned to his parents' house in Yamaguchi Prefecture by bus. The reason the police couldn't find the perpetrator for so long was that they only searched within the Kitaguchi household area and never considered that the perpetrator might have fled, keeping the case unsolved for 14 years. Over the years, Manabu began to wonder about the girl's condition. When he realized the gravity of his actions, it triggered his bad temper, which had been concealed for almost 13 years, as he appeared to be a good employee. In court, when asked if he watched porn after the incident, Manabu admitted he did, including sexual assault porn, although he claimed he didn't feel anything. This raised questions about the sincerity of his regret. On March 3rd, 2020, 2 years after his arrest, the first court trial was held at the Hiroshima District Court. Manabu finally admitted his actions and explained the chronology. During the defendant's questioning session on March 4th, Manabu stated that he always felt guilty and knew that the regret would slowly consume him. He claimed he might not remember the incident in detail, but his unconscious mind kept urging him to apologize, which he never did. He also admitted that his actions deserved the death penalty. Manabu described his actions as spontaneous, with the sole intent to sexually assault Satomi, not to kill her. The defense suggested that Manabu's distorted nature might have stemmed from his hatred towards his father, combined with the stress and pressure from his job. According to the indictment, Manabu was accused of murder, fatal sexual assault, and attempted murder, though news outlets reported that no sexual assault had been carried out. During the fourth trial on March 10th, based on the facts revealed, the prosecutor demanded life imprisonment for Manabu. In March 2018, Manabu Kashima was sentenced to life imprisonment. Manabu's defense did not appeal for a lesser sentence. The 14-year-old case finally came to an end. Despite having significant information, the local police struggled to find the culprit because of a lack of advanced technology and a failure to disseminate the information widely. Many if-only scenarios were discussed on social media. If only the Japanese police had expanded their search outside Hiroshima, if only they had sought assistance from another prefecture police departments, and other similar scenarios. What do you think is the reason it took 14 years for the police to identify the perpetrator? Do you believe the perpetrator is sincere about his guilt? And do you think this brings the closure the Kitaguchi family deserves? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.